Hello everybody, slight different job today. We've had a new customer get in touch with us. They're just on the finishing touches of a build of something. They wouldn't disclose what it was for, but what we've got here is a fairly substantial Semens electric motor, and what appears to have happened is somebody's either dropped it a bit funny or set it down a bit strange, and the corner piece of the mounting section is actually broken away. So that's where it should be sitting, obviously. So we've already made a start in getting this piece cleaned up and prepped up, ready for some weld to go around it. I've still got this piece to clean up and prep and get that ready for some weld around it. But cast iron's a little bit different in the way that it works. You've got to be... It's very much a case of adding a little bit of material, taking a bit more off, adding a little bit, needle gunning, adding a bit more, getting some more heat into it, and it can take a real chunk of time to get it sorted. So what we're going to be doing is cleaning this back and get it prepped up and ready, get some fire blankets around it and try and protect it as best as we can. I mean, if it was an ideal scenario, these brackets we'd actually been able to detach, but unfortunately we can't. It's integral to the motor. So we're going to get some preheat into it. We're not going to go too mad on that, because cast iron's one of the most awkward ones when it comes to the heat factor with it. You've got to have a certain amount of heat in it to actually start the weld. You've got to keep it warm through doing the job. You've then got to make sure it's got a post heat as it cools down, so it doesn't cool down too quickly and crack. So I've got a load of fire blankets on hand, so as soon as we're done and I'm happy with it, I'm going to bundle the whole lot in fire blankets to make sure it cools down nice and slowly. But yeah, slightly different one for today, but we'll show you how to do it and see what you guys reckon. Now that we've got it all cleaned up, or cleaned up as much as we need it to for now, for the past hour and a half or so, we've had some pure nickel and chrome rods in the rod oven, just drying out, taking some of the moisture out of them. You should always, if possible, you should always use them from a sealed container. So they're just in there drying out, and essentially just so they're prepped and ready. So what we'll do is we'll leave them in there and go and get one at a time as and when we need it to actually do the welding on the job. So what I'm going to do now is set up roughly the right ampage. Going to get a couple of tacks on it, probably a couple on this side and a couple on this side, just to hold everything in position. I'm going to do that with it as it's sitting now, so cold. Then I'm going to try and wrap it as best I can to try and keep the heat from going into the motor too much. Get some actual preheat into it and start getting some weld around it. So until we're at that point, I'm undecided as to what size rods and what kind of ampage we're going to be running. I would imagine we're going to be around 85 to 90 amps or so on the 2.5 rods. If we move up to the 3.2s, then we'll probably be around 110 to 115 amps. So now that we've got a couple of tacks on there, we're going to set about getting some preheat into it. Just because, I mean, even with just the tacks on, that's got a bit of temperature to it. But we're going to give it a bit of preheat, so at least then that heat soaks into it and it will soak back to it as we work our way through doing the welds. It would appear that, contrary to what I said earlier, I've not got any 2.5s left, so I've only got 3.2s and 4 mils. So we're going to have to be doing it with 3.2s, because anyone that welds cast knows just how much the rods are for doing this sort of stuff. So it's a case of we'll do it with what we've got, especially seeing as these guys, I mean, we're just coming up to a bank holiday Monday. I don't know when you guys are going to be watching it, but we're just coming up to it and they want it back for Tuesday. So it's a case of sort it with what we've got, and that's that. I'm going to get some weld around it, tickle that weld out, get a bit more weld around it, and keep going from there. Should also explain it's the first actually hot day we've had this year, so this is quite unpleasant. I mean, we're always going to damage the paint on this, so we're just trying to mitigate for it at least a little bit, so it's not got quite as dramatic as a full respray job on it. That's the hope anyway. We'll get mask on, give it a very quick wire wheel where we're going to be welding. I probably ought to put a glove on. Right. And a hell of a lot different to what people might be used to with the likes of 6013s or 7018s. It's a much gentler arc, and it almost just drops off the end of the rod into the weld pool. So we'll just both types of rods that we might end up using, just for a little bit of a comparison. You got 3.2 and then the 4mm. That's the sort of rod you'd be using on likes of heavy castings off agricultural tractors, things like that. If push came to shove and a cast item that's possibly no longer attainable, you know, or not manufactured, that's the sort of size thing you'd be using for sorting that out. But for the minute, I think largely we're going to stick with the 3.2s and just keep burning this in. I can give you the composition of these. This is an ESAB rod, I believe. This one I think is a Lincoln rod, but I can give you the composition of these so you know what sorts of materials we're dealing with. But I think this is a nickel chrome alloy altogether, so not entirely nickel, a little bit of a mixture between different materials. So, but I can soon find the information and we'll put that in the comments. Is just clean out one of the first tacks we did and where we've finished the weld on this side, so I've got a nice straight pass to run into there, and that'll probably be one straight in the middle, probably one at the bottom and one at the top. So we're doing 3 passes because this has got to be cleaned off so it's all squared up so it looks as if we've never touched it. You filming? Now that I've actually got a reasonable bit of base temperature into all of this, this is all nice and warm now. Thankfully it's not spreading too much into the actual motor body. I've turned the ampage down just a bit, only about 10 amps or so, just to make the weld a little bit easier to control, because cast, when it's dripping in, it kind of drips from one side to another here and there. It's not as consistent as a standard mild steel rod or anything like that. So, or even stainless. Stainless is more predictable than this. So, but we'll get a bit more on it. We've actually done all the welding we need, well, all the welding I can see that we need for now. So what we're going to do is sand back the likes of the flat faces. So we've got there, and across the bottom here, and over the top as well. But I'll probably end up having to do that with a die grinder and a file. and then we can clean out the internals. So once I've got it back to the shape that I want it to be in, we'll then have a much clearer idea as to whether there's any slag intrusions or any cracks appearing through anything, and go from there. But hopefully everything's all right. We can do a post heat because it's still bloody warm, and then go around it with the needle gun to give it some texture and make it look like it's never been touched. So next bit's a bit of sanding. There doesn't need to be a lot of heat here. It's just to bring it up a little bit. It also, if there is a crack in a weld, this tends to highlight it a little bit more because you get that little bit of expansion through the crack because of the heat. And it's usually a hell of a lot more visible. The reason I've gone around it with a needle gun like that is, one, it gives you this nice textured finish, which is a bit more in keeping with what it would have been originally as a cast iron item. It also finds any weak spots. So if I was to go over a bit that was only just holding on with the needle gun, it'll find it and it'll rattle. But so far so good. It all seems to be holding up nice and sound. I've not seen anything appear in terms of cracks or out like that. And ultimately, for what it's doing, once the bolt's in it and tight, it's not going to go anywhere for the rest of its days. So we're going to get this all cleaned up. I'm going to probably give it a little bit of a coat of etch primer or so, just to keep the orange off. And I'll get it laid back down again because it is a lump. And then I'll let the customer know and come get it out my f***ing way. So, no, pleased with that. Gone well.